Coming up on today's wrestling news, a huge return on last night's AEW Dynamite.
We've got a massive Daniel Garcia contract update.
Dijak shoots on an insane Vince McMahon idea.
And Chad Gable explains why he decided to re-sign with WWE.
I'm Adam Wilborn.
I'm Michael Hamflett.
And this is the news. Hangman Page is back. He returned. He was the wild card in the Owen Hart tournament. And he returned on last night's AEW Dynamite and beat your guy, Jeff Jarrett, unfortunately. Unfortunately for Jeff Jarrett, awesome for Hangman Page, who received quite the reaction, let's say. We'll delve more into this, no doubt, on the AEW Dynamite review, and Miller will get into it on ups and downs. But yes, he won that quarterfinal. That means he advances to the semi-final, which goes down on this week's Collision, I believe, where he faces Jay White to see who will face Bryan Danielson in the final. The winner, of course, of the Owen Hart tournament goes on to get the title match at All In. Post-match, we had a segment. Obviously, the Elite were the ones who got to choose the wild card for this. And the Young Bucks were so happy to have Hangman Page back. Him, less so. They were all being buddy-buddy. Hey, we're all back together. And offered him their slot on their Blood and Guts team. We know 4 members of that. We actually know the first member of Team AEW. Spoilers. Although, while you're watching this, if you haven't watched Dynamite, it's Mark Briscoe.
Yes. That's a completed team, isn't it? I saw that graphic. I was like, he can take that.
Yeah, 105. Let's go.
We're good.
But yes, Hangman Page did not take too kindly to this. He squared up to them, grabbed Matthew Jackson, said he's not the Elite's puppet anymore, and he's going to focus on winning the Owen Hart tournament, at which point the Bucks were like, okay, let's cut, shall we? Let's go back to the ring or whatever. Hangman Page obviously has been missing since AEW Revolution. He lost that 3-way involving the champ at the time, Samoa Joe, and Swerve Strickland. And he was suspended by the Young Bucks in storyline as a result of that. No word on as the reason why, personal reasons, that's absolutely fine, but great to have him back, most importantly.
Yeah, he was, before he went off TV, he was kind of gradually going more and more insane and becoming obsessed with Swerve, and you know, the idea was if he can win the title, or at least stop Swerve winning it, all was going to be alright, when that was clearly not the case. Well, last night when he does return, it's basically full steam ahead to Swerve as soon as possible. He even said as much to the Elite. Yeah. In going through the Owen, he's taken their deal in order to finally get what he wants, and he was basically willing to just stomp on Jeff Jarrett's dreams as a result, and mine too, as a result. It was quite the bit of business, this.
Didn't need the Deadeye, did it? He just did it to put a bit of stank on it. It
was a cruel performance. We reported just yesterday. We didn't report. We don't report anything. We're not journalists. We talked. We shared some very wise words from Cody Rhodes about how difficult it is to be a heel in 2024.
Yeah.
Hangman Page found a way. They kind of made some bold choices. His music changed. So
Def Rebel does it now, apparently.
It seems that way. Even though the name flashed up, it didn't come with the pop you would have expected. It was like kind of an anemic reaction in the building. Hangman Page fostered that reaction and never chased the pop. He was really cruel to Jeff Jarrett. That had another interview with Jarrett earlier on to just double down on the video about how this was just a big important night for him. It wasn't even just wrestling in the final in Calgary. It was how he had links to where the semi-final was going to be. So they've told you that every step of the way makes sense for Jarrett.
Owen Hart moves in the match, of course.
Indeed, yeah, he does the
Hangman Page, screw your dreams.
Moving forward with the other leg, sharpshooter that Owen used to do as opposed to Brett's one, for an amazing, kind of the only tease of Jarrett going to win was in the sharpshooter and the submission spot, apart from the stroke on the apron.
That was class.
A really quite bold bit of booking to present Hangman Page this way. This was uncompromising and unflinching. It didn't attempt to woo the massive sort of support for Hangman Page as a sympathetic figure. No. This was far more of a darker side to him. Even though we know Page can do this and kind of come out the other side as the hero once again, he's entered one of them pretty deep valleys, hasn't he?
Yeah. Really excited to see where this goes next. One would assume All In.
Indeed, yeah. The tournament remains unpredictable, but certainly you can see a Danielson-Page rematch, and they're never bad. They're never bad. So, yeah. Speaking of, I guess, like, where people are going to land and outcomes and futures for those in AEW. Daniel Garcia.
Yes.
Some would argue last night on Dynamite in the main event against Will Ospreay for the international title was his kind of biggest AEW moment yet. He's had, shots at AEW champions and in big main events, but never really one where you thought he might win or where the story felt most focused on him more than anybody else. That wasn't the case. Yes, he left on his back on a stretcher bloodied, but in wrestling that tends to mean that things are going well.
Yes.
Like that's sort of how it works.
If you haven't watched Dynamite, that wasn't Will Ospreay's fault.
No, yeah, very much not a Will Ospreay thing. An MJF thing. He's not our scumbag anymore.
Oh, but yes, he is for me.
Behind the scenes, Fight for Select have done some great reporting that they always do, saying that the internal belief is that he'll be around for, quote, quite some time. The report carries on saying, sources familiar with the situation have confirmed that Daniel Garcia's AEW contract was set to expire in the fall of 2024, at least as of earlier this year. Ooh. So it's yet another wrestler we're talking contracts on. So Garcia could possibly be hit with free agency at just 26. However, one top AEW name said they don't believe he's going anywhere and even think he's re-signed. So he's either as good as out of contract or completely back in the books and ready to go. So the report goes on to add, when we asked directly close to Garcia about his contract, they said a lot of his future would likely come into focus soon. The report adds, they reached out to Garcia but didn't get a comment on record or background on the story. So again, and this dropped yesterday before Dynamite. So, we can infer maybe that as a result of being involved in this huge angle, rather than being a right out, that was presumably a right back in, and the MJF match at Wembley that MJF tried to give him as a kind of nice gesture last week is now a blood feud.
Or, I don't know, maybe they do a triple threat with Ospreay as
Possibly,
well.
yeah. Ospreay did return.
MJF feels like another potential huge match for All In as well.
That's true, yeah. They could go both ways, that one, couldn't they?
And Garcia maybe returns at All In and they do the match at All Out. I don't know, but...
All this was a shoot right out like the Ricochet thing. And they're like, well, even we're going to beat them out here.
Yes, I sense he's going to be sticking around in AEW.
I think so.
It's slightly similar, slightly different because Gable's contracted, it's pretty much expired. This one is going to run out later on this year, but, we're in that danger zone for a contract, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, a bit like with Chad Gable, the way that they're booking Daniel Garcia makes you think, I doubt they're saying, oh, thanks very much.
Yeah.
See you later. Like, I'm sure, I've no doubt WWE would love to have him. Phenomenally talented Daniel Garcia, of course, real potential in the business. But yeah, I expect him to stick around in AEW for a long old time, especially with, the likes of MJF committing their future there as well, of course.
Yeah, a couple of prodigies last night doing the big heavy heat stuff.
Also, speaking of that angle, which was a brilliant way to close out Dynamite, if you haven't seen it already, go on social media and check out Daddy Magic's bloodied promo as he stumbles through backstage and swears vengeance on behalf of Daniel Garcia. Another sensational Daddy Magic promo.
There was one camera cut to him after MJF had sparked him out with the Dynamite ring, and the gasp from the building when he saw him covered in blood.
Garcia was already bloody. You're like, okay, someone's been bloody. Jesus!
Like one of his eyes was entirely bright red, wasn't it? He was reached out trying to help Danny.
Get well soon, everyone.
Good stuff. Get well soon, wrestlers.
Yeah.
Look really sore.
But let us know what you'd like to see Daniel Garcia do, and we should mention what you'd like to see Hangman Page do going forward in the comments section below. And we'll move on now to yet another insane Vince McMahon idea. It's not normally news, this, because most of them in his latter stages were pretty bonkers, but this one really does take the biscuit. Because Dijak has been chatting with Alfred Konuwa regarding Dijak's time in the Brilliant. It's a dark, dark time for many of us.
Yeah.
Revealing a storyline or an angle that Vince McMahon pitched to them. I'm just going to read it because I've read it before and I still can't believe what I'm about to say. He said, this is a Vince idea. Dijak, this is. Vince wanted Mia Yim, Michin, to pretend she was having a seizure. He wanted her to pretend she was having an epileptic seizure, and we were presented by this by, I don't know, the writer or the producer, and we didn't want to shoot the messenger. I don't remember who it was, but you could see it in their face. They're like, I'm sorry, but Vince wanted you to have a seizure. And she's like, we're all like, what are you talking about? That's the way the production meetings worked back then under Vince. Dijak continued, he'd say something, everyone would just have wide eyes because you can't call him on it. Regarding Dijak's release, by the way, he also had this to say, I don't know if I'd say betrayed is the word I'd use. A lot of this has to be taken with a grain of salt because the bottom line is, I don't know, I never got an explanation, which I wanted. I think that warranted some sort of explanation, his time within the company, that is, as to what was happening, and I never got one. That's disappointing. The word I would use to describe how I feel about WWE and the components of WWE and how this transpired would be disappointed. Not disgusted, not angry, none of that. Shame's been released by WWE, as we've mentioned on numerous occasions now. But I assume Vince pitched epileptic seizure and they settled on pretend to have spiders all over you.
The crazy thing about this
Who were they facing? Was that the Hurt Business match?
It was probably one of the many matches they lost as a stable of invaders that then signed a Raw exclusive contract.
Hey, got to get paid.
There honestly will be. We talked about this at the time. If you were listening to any of our podcasts or coverage back then, how the kind of shorthand for the worst wrestling of all time needed to switch from 2000 WCW to 17 to pandemic era WWE. The last
pretty much my first few years with what culture?
The last years of Vince, ultimately. But this was about as bad as it got, not least because it was all taking place in the PC and the Thunderdome and everybody was locked in, and you had this group of insurgents that suddenly had spiders or seizures, and Dijak to this day gets T-bar chants, and it feels like there could be stories from Dijak or from Mia Yim or from anybody associated, Mustafa Ali, now he's back out there. Anybody associated with that group will presumably have a lifetime of stories on any given week, what they were doing when they were how it went on a standard work day for them, what they would try and knock back. That process sounds awful, doesn't it? Scared writers taking the autocratic message to a wrestler that takes immense pride and, by the way, is massive. Mr. Dijak, sir. They'll probably look like me. Some fat idiot writer that just wants to sort of get along and goes up to this jacked, prideful pro wrestler and be like, all right, T-Bar mate, he wants you to fart down a megaphone in protest. You what?
And they all know that they can't really call it because it's Vince, so it's come from the you can't go above him.
And by the time it goes on air, the commentators have got something different on the formats. They're not even calling what they're seeing. And
the thing is, obviously, the pandemic was an incredibly unique situation, and no one knew what they were really doing, and it was very much sort of flying by the seat of your pants for all promotions.
Yeah,
but you compare this and the storylines we watched at that time. You can arguably chuck in Big E's cash in because that just felt like we need some ratings. Let's just promote that.
Yeah.
It was all trying to desperately get people to watch in a very weird time. You compare that to what we saw on that WrestleMania documentary last night about the long process, the long-term booking that they have. Yes, The Rock almost screwed all that up. But
now it's funny because I saw the documentary, and we'll maybe go into this on another video.
Yes, we are going to get into our instant reactions from that.
Did he screw it up, or did he give us, the WWE universe, everything we wanted all along?
We'll say it's the greatest pivot in wrestling history, but
it's the greatest something.
I can imagine if you were a part of Retribution or a part of anything related to WWE back then, you'd be coming in thinking, maybe I'll get lucky and just get to have a wrestling match tonight.
It's like Seth Rollins saying, man, this is the craziest WrestleMania build I've ever been a part of. Dijak, hold my career. I don't know, man. Strange company.
We're here to take over. Thanks for the contracts, and also we're losing all of our matches.
We've got chainsaws, we'll use them. On what?
Careful, we might put through two windows. Sorry, one window twice.
Well, I don't know, we'll make sparks on the post. Anything else? No, just sparks. Just a rope.
You want to smash the ring up? Well, don't smash the ring up. We need that next week. What about I just hit it with a baseball bat? That's not going to do any damage. Yeah, do that.
Go for gold. Treat yourself.
Knock yourself out.
Somebody that has probably knocked himself out once, twice for WWE and is now going to do it again is Chad Gable.
Yes.
He's sort of gone into a bit of detail about why he's elected to sign for WWE, or re-sign, should I say. Look, he had a choice to make. A lot of people just assumed it was between two major organisations, but he had a point in his career where he could kind of vote for anything. He had to elect to make a good call. I've left my phone.
Oh, you're joking, aren't you?
Yeah, he had that
it's getting warm in here, mate.
Big choice to make. He had and he chose WWE of all the options he had to elect. And he's gone into a bit of detail on why that might be. He was speaking to Peter Rosenberg and he says, quote, I've done some reflection.
Peter Rosenberg?
Peter Rosenberg.
Not Pete.
Oh yeah, he's in trouble with me.
Yeah,
I'm giving him a Sunday name. Pete Rosenberg. Thank you for that. Yeah, Chadley Gable was on Peter Rosenberg's show, and
Chadley Gable smile.
He says, "I've done some reflection, not just what it means to me personally or financially going forward, but what I want it to mean to me. I'm getting older. The business is interesting. When I evaluate what I want my legacy to be, or part of my legacy, I want to step in more of a leadership role going forward, locker room wise. We have a lot of young talent coming through with guys from NXT." He goes on to list some of them.
Tony D'Angelo.
And says, everyone has seen their athleticism. They haven't necessarily had the guiding light to show them the other stuff. Or the aid. No one needs to teach them how to be strong and athletic. They have that. I couldn't teach them that. I think I'm the type of guy that would be good in a leadership role and would have a lot of value, especially to the people that WWE and NXT are interested in, which are people with sporting backgrounds and making the jump from amateur athletics with the NIL deals. Chad Gable's sort of brilliant at all of this, isn't he? He seemed like he had this cracked from day one when he arrived in NXT, put his name on a towel and helped get Jason Jordan over finally. And it was like, oh, they're the greatest tag team of all time. They had 1-on-1 here with a revival. Yeah. And just ever since then, Like, it became a running joke. Like, what can't Gable do? Like, yes, the G was a ruler, but like Shorty G was still involved in some incredibly heated matches. The King of the Ring tournament against
Baron Corbin,
Baron Corbin. All the tag teams he made work, despite the fact that it was in an era where Vince McMahon actively hated tag team wrestling and did what he could to bury the division.
Yeah.
Like, he overcomes every hurdle because he gets how it works, and in the background, all the time, he always delivers in the ring. He's got the athletic background. He, as he's pointed out
himself. It's a really good point that about the NIL athletes.
Like, he's perfectly suited, right, isn't he? Like, the Performance Centre, in an ideal world, has like a raft of wrestlers on staff who can offer all the different tips. You know, you've got, like, you want someone like Shawn Michaels who, like, despite it being divisive, can offer a lot psychologically and theatrically. You want a Gable that understands how to turn an athlete into a pro wrestler. You want a Matt Bloom to tell you when it's the right time to shave your back. Everyone's got value.
We've all got jobs.
You want, if you're into like the British style wrestler, to be your dad. Like, there's a lot of different values that different coaches offer, but in all seriousness, Chad Gable would make an excellent one.
Yeah,
but the punker one's in. Like, there's people that just love the idea of like being able to shape and mould and all that kind of stuff. Like, the different things they bring. Gable, it would be one of the most valuable ones on the entire roster.
I was going to say, like, I'm sure WWE were excited to just keep him around for storyline-wise on the main roster. But yeah, the benefit he's going to bring to NXT and the developmental side of things is limitless. And I'm sure that AEW would have loved that just for just the same reasons as well. They've got greener guys that I'm sure he could have imparted great knowledge to. You knew Chad Gable was going to re-sign with the way that they were booking him. Yeah. He could be Master in the Bank by this weekend, of course. He's in Money in the Bank, and barring Wyatt 6 involvement, which I would not rule out, he could well be leaving as Mr. Master Money in the Bank.
Indeed.
In fact, we should really do some predictions about Money in the Bank, you know?
I like the sound of that.
Maybe we'll do that over the next, the show's on Saturday, so between now and then,
really soon.
We'll do
Check
it.
your feeds, it'll be there.
But yeah,
He's 38 as well, which in modern wrestling terms, he's got about like 15 years left.
He feels like he's been around a long old time.
Yeah, he's got
looks
time.
young, and
he's got time.
Yeah, really good for everyone. Him, well, apart from AEW, it would be good not to get him, but really good for WWE and Chad Gable. Very excited to see what they do with him now, because it feels like they finally, over the past 6 months to a year, realised it's really good talent.
Yeah, it's clicking, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know your thoughts on that and everything we've discussed in the comments section below. Like, share, subscribe, of course, and make sure if you're here in the UK, you go out and vote today. And after you've done that, reward yourself by watching this video right here. We'll see you soon.
Reward.